Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Oasis.
To the entertainment oasis. What are we talking about today?
Well, someone got a new game, so you tell me.
Yes. Oh, it's not new. It's like 3 weeks old.
Well, it's new to you. You got a new game.
It's new to me. It's new to me.
You got a new game.
I ended up getting Guilty Gear Strive. Now, I know this guy is a huge Guilty Gear fan.
I wouldn't say a fanatic, but I've...
But he's a fan. He's good.
I don't know. But I've been playing it since... the first one I played was Guilty Gear Izuka, which came out, I want to say, in 2004? 2006? I could be wrong. But the first one came out in 1998.
Jeez.
So I was I was by far late to the game, and I played at a friend's house, and then I got into it. But we got a chance to play this new one. He was able to find it. It was
Okay.
he went on a journey.
Tell me why. And if any of you have had this problem too, I would love to hear about it in the comments. Tell me why it was so hard to find this game. I went to Target, I went to Walmart, I went to GameStop, I went to Best Buy. Nobody had it. I mean,
and it's been 3 weeks already.
It's Guilty Gear. I mean, not even a collector's edition. It's just
and no bash on Guilty Gear, but in our experience, we found that Guilty Gear had a very niche audience. It was people who were big fans of their fighting system. And don't get me wrong, when I first played Guilty Gear, I thought it was a very unique fighting game just because of how fast-paced it was. And it was nothing like I had ever kind of played before, So to me, it always kind of felt like it was more of an underground, It's got its very popular fan base, but it wasn't mainstream.
much like Celeste, where
it wasn't like Street Fighter, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's got this
it has a
global
following,
thing.
but it's not a mainstream.
It's
following.
not a mainstream sensation.
Kind of like Undertale, I guess, because it has Undertale, for example, has a massive following. But if you were to go to random people and say "Hey, have you heard Undertale?" For most people, it's no, because they don't play those type. Most people.
I don't know. I feel like Undertale may have broken into the mainstream.
You think
now.
so?
I think so.
But we're not here to talk about Undertale.
Yeah.
I will be honest. I was a bit disappointed when I popped in the game because we don't have a whole lot of characters. We don't have a whole lot of characters. We got a couple of familiar faces, but I just hate the fact that they sold us a $60 game. Only to say hey, for an extra $15, you guys get 5 more characters when they come out, and we'll throw in some costumes. I'm just come on,
Yeah, that was a bit.
That's very.
That was a bit
that's a
harsh.
dick move.
Yeah.
That's a dick move.
The Guilty Gear roster, they built it up quite nicely with characters over the years. To the point where I think I want to say they have at least 30 playable characters or more. The fact that they only gave you half of that is kind of a letdown.
Yeah, big letdown.
Yeah,
and none of the characters that I play with are even in this game. There's no Jam, there's no Dizzy. I try to mess around with Johnny a bit. Never that good, but he was fun to at least
Yeah, no Johnny, no Slayer, no Zappa, no Robokai, no Abba, no Bridget. There's more. Of course, no Justice. Now, no Testament. I can the list goes on. But I mean, to be fair, for some of these characters, they're technically dead, so it wouldn't make sense for them to be there. Mm-hmm. But as far as I know, there's only probably 2 characters that are dead, which are, I want to say, Testament and Justice, and Cliff, I guess, is retired. I don't know.
You know how you could know? Through the game.
Oh, tell me more.
One thing, I was messing around with the game yesterday, and I found that they have a timeline, a really cool timeline. I'm assuming from beginning of when the whole Guilty Gear thing started, all the way up until where the story is right now, and it breaks it down by year. On this year, this happened, blah 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 blah. Mm-hmm. This year, this happened. And I thought that was very interesting because I'm not too familiar with the lore of Guilty Gear. but reading through that was like, that is so cool. And then we found like this connection chart where it'll tell you like during this period, so and so met this person who was rivals with this, and there was like little lines connecting each one, and they gave you a breakdown of what was happening during different events, like who was against who, who likes who was cooperating with who. It was like, for me, I feel like this can really help me catch up to where we're at in the story. Because the previous games I played, I've only played them. I never really dove into like the, what's going on during that period. But I'm gonna spend more time going through that feature and just when I found that, I was very happy. I was like, wow, this is not something I expected, and there's so much in it. It's not just like a quick little here's this, and here's this. It's pretty extensive. So I freaking love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you want to find out who's dead, go through that timeline, and I'm sure it'll tell you.
There you go. Now, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because this kind of rolls into, I guess, what I wanted to discuss next, and that's the whole direction that they went with the way the fighting system is now. Now, I think we both agreed on this. Compared to the older ones, this seemed a lot more slow-paced. Yeah. By far. When I first played Guilty Gear, one of the main attractions was just of how fast-paced it was and how technical it was. This was a serious fighting game. This was you don't joke around with this one. Yeah. And that's actually, and it's not just me, like everybody that I know that played it also and enjoyed it liked it for that reason. And in fact, if you look at reviews of the older Guilty Gears, that's what got its main praise, is that it kind of did its own thing. It was very fast-paced, very technical, and they were consistent with it. Like they, with all their entries, that fast-paced like fighting system was like a thing. And now I feel like they're switching gears. And I think, switching gears, yeah, that was no pun intended, but it worked out quite well. But I think what started changing their minds was Blaze Blue. Blaze Blue, whatever. I think when they launched that series, and they made it a lot more beginner friendly, people who are just getting introduced to the game, they're not overwhelmed by like the super technical, fighting game where, they get just kind of intimidated and it's like, nah, this is not for me. This is too much. Like Blaze Blue, I feel like was like the more, I guess, cookie cutter, like standard flow fighting game that more people can get into. And I think they saw the success of that, and they wanted to combine that with like the old Guilty Gear fan base, and they wanted to do the same thing with Guilty Gear. Bring in that new audience, that's not as technical, but also like, hey, but it's still Guilty Gear, like our old audience, come on in as well. And I think they tried to tie that in together with the whole explaining of the story. That way people who are not only new to like, say this like fighting game, they can also learn the Guilty Gear lore. Yeah. Like they won't just come in and it's like, okay, the fighting system's pretty cool, but I have no idea who these people are. I have no idea what's going on in the story. So it's kind of like they tried to make it appeal for everybody. Mm-hmm. But with that, they compromise. In my opinion, what made the game special, and that's kind of disappointing.
One feature I did like though, even though they kind of changed some stuff around, was the whole if you're like being pinned in the corner, eventually if they keep the pressure on, you end up breaking through like a glass wall, and you kind of get sent off to like a different part of the stage where it kind of helps reset the match so that you're not just being slaughtered in the corner, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, but the whole getting flown into another part of the map, that's nothing new. Like other fighting games have been doing that years before. I want to say over a decade ago. Yeah. Other fighting games were doing that. But I think it's an especially cool feature for Guilty Gear because one of the I guess things that Guilty Gear was infamously known for certain players and characters is that it was very easy to corner people
and just keep them there
and just completely like overwhelm them. They just could not leave the corner and you just kill them. at least with this, if they break through that glass barrier and go to the other stage, it kind of resets and gives the player breathing room. You know, at least.
Even though there's technically ways to get out of the corner, if you use certain like techniques.
There's burst, but
but for the newer players, this is really helpful because maybe they don't have all the controls down, but this can really help them kind of like not feel like, this is just a game where I'm just gonna get punished, all the time.
Yeah, especially if they try to break into the online play. Yeah.
Which is also something really neat this game incorporates.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not sure if the previous Guilty Gear game did this, but we've been spending a lot of time looking at matches from other people. Like, it has like a replay theater where you can look up, I think, a player and view their matches that they've had online, or you can just view random matches. And let's say you want to see a Potemkin matchup with a Kai. So you set up the parameter, I want to see Potemkin versus Kai matches, and it'll load up all the Potemkin versus Kai matches that have been played, and then you can select them and choose them, and you can watch them. So it's a really good study thing. Like, if you want to figure out like how do I improve this matchup when I'm fighting a Kai, you can view other people and learn from their matches, see how they handle, fighting that one character. And we spent a fairly good amount of time just like in awe as in regards to some of these matches, because you can choose what level you want to look at them from. Like, do you want to look at beginners? And I think they break them down into floors, like full floor 1 through 10, and then Celestial, which I'm assuming is like the cream of the crop.
Yeah, those are probably like it's a ranking system, and Celestial floor is the top players. But if you want to see, okay, how are the pros playing this character? You can actually see that. You can see whatever character you want, as long as there are pro players that use that character. But there's already so many players in just the 3 weeks that it's been out. But so you can see how pro people are using that character, and it's like, okay, how are people countering this? You know what I mean? Like, let's say if like, I see that that very, very pro, let's say if you're playing and it's like, I see very soul bad guy or whatever, like he's a very problem character for me. How are other people dealing with him in the top tier? And so you can see that, and that is a really cool feature. I know other games have allowed you to save replays of your own games, and also like, say if you're friends with someone who has the game and they have replay saved, you can view theirs. But for it to be open just like this for people online, I've never seen anything this sophisticated. In that sense, which is really cool.
What's even cooler is you can like narrow in on a specific player, and take a look at how many times they've won, how many matches they've played, how many times they've won, how many matches they've won with certain characters. It gives you a really in-depth breakdown of a player who plays online often. I think we were looking at, was it Green Tea
123.
123.
Yeah, and the only reason why we looked at that guy is because he was like featured in the little news thing that was there, and it's like it caught our attention, like over 4,000 matches or something
in the 3 weeks that it's been live.
I was like, is that the top player? And we looked at some of his matches, and
that's when we started discovering all this.
He might be a she, I don't know, but like like he or she was so good at the game. And who were his mains? Was it?
It was Kai and Zato. Those were the two that he, because I think he had like over 3,000 wins with, or maybe 2,000 wins with Kai, and over 1,000 with Zato, and then everyone else had like maybe
in the hundreds. Those guys played.
But a lot. It was really cool to take a look at how he performs with each character, and it's pretty great. I mean, I feel bad for anyone who's like, I want to see how Clueless does, and it's like, one win
he's
and like
every single match. What is that? He's just spamming one move.
That's where his power lies, in the cheese. But it's such a great feature, and I'll be honest, at first when I started playing it, I was like, oh man, was this really worth my $60? But then as I started discovering more and more about the game, I kind of felt validated, like, yeah, this was a solid purchase. And then watching some of the Zato players, kind of got me like, okay, maybe I can learn how to play him like this, and I slowly started practicing, learning how to incorporate, similar tactics that they use. But I also got to see how great a Giovanna can be. Because I tried playing her, I was like, man, she's kind of slow. But then when I saw some of the extras play her, I was like, holy,
she's not slow at all.
It's like it's just
it's me.
It's me. Like some of these people, they are top tier, and I was like, I want to get to that point. So it was that whole replay theater thing, definitely a great tool for studying, practicing, all that good stuff.
And also just for following people. It gives you the option to follow certain players. So if you're just a fan of somebody, and it's like, oh, I really enjoy their matches, like you can follow that person. Yeah. And in this day and age, like, with gaming and like the I guess like the whole, like, I guess gaming culture has evolved to the point where, like, with Twitch and all that, you get to follow your favorite gamers. Like, this in a way kind of helps with that.
Kind of helps bring in more people to you, more eyes on you.
Right.
Yeah, especially with that green tea, it's like we would have not known about him had it not just been down there. It's like, hey, check it out.
Yeah,
this guy has over X amount of wins. Like, say what? But it's great. It's definitely great, and I started getting more into the gameplay once I started practicing a bit more, and the game started becoming a little more fun. I haven't played online yet. I feel like I'm still a ways away before I feel a little more confident in demolishing my enemies. But it's gonna happen. And they also have a story mode, which I assumed was gonna be like Street Fighter story mode, where it's a story plays out and it's like, oh, now you have a match.
Yeah, well, I did too, because all in the past that's how it was.
And then I played the story mode and I'm like, it's been 10 minutes and I haven't fought.
What's going on?
And then we looked it up and it's like, oh, it's just a movie. It's a really long movie.
And then it's said in parentheses, by the way, each chapter is 20 minutes. So like, okay, how many chapters are there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out the whole thing is 4 to 5 hours long.
Which honestly I don't mind, because with like Mortal Kombat and Injustice 2, Mortal Kombat 11 and Injustice 2, I would go to YouTube and I would just watch videos of just the cutscenes, and it was like a 2 to 3 hour movie, and I'd just be there in my room like, yeah, eating popcorn and stuff. It was like, and it was better than most movies out there. So far I've only seen the first chapter in Guilty Gear, but I'm definitely gonna keep up with that. Honestly, I really do think that if the game doesn't crash. I've heard stories about that, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna hold off on watching the whole story. But I think this is the first game in a good while where I've genuinely felt like, yeah, this is worth every single. Okay, let me rephrase that. It's the first time I bought a $60 game that has made me feel like this is worth every dollar. Like when I bought these, like Celeste, Undertale, those were like $30, and I feel like, yeah, those are pretty cool. Pokemon Shield, I was like, it's getting kind of repetitive. Super Mario Miracle, the same thing.
Yeah,
some of the other ones too.
Pokemon Sword and Shield, like, it's very linear.
Yeah. So with this one,
that's saying a lot for a Pokemon game.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still enjoy it, and I still play it to this day. But yeah, this is the first one where I'm like, I am 100%, without a doubt, satisfied with this purchase. So I encourage you guys to, assuming you can find it, I encourage you guys to go get it. It's a really great game.
So I myself didn't get the game. Well, I mean, I'm glad that you're happy. You're super happy with your purchase. I guess my pros and cons. So my pros, I'm gonna start with the pros, is the graphics look really good. The visuals look stunning. I like the whole breaking the wall, going to the other side of the map. I love what they did with the lore. Great way to kind of catch everybody up with the story. The online aspect, very good. All that's great. My cons are, of course, the slowing down of the gameplay. And also they did change up some characters quite a bit. For example, I loved using Axel, but I found out now that he no longer has any counters, which to me was a big thing. It was one of the main reasons why I used him. But now he's no longer a counter character, so it's like I don't know if I'll continue using him. So they changed up quite a few characters. I feel like they also shortened their command lists quite a bit too. They don't have as many special moves.
Yeah, see, and I wouldn't know because my mains are not in the game.
Which is kind of another, and then the very, very small roster that they gave. Now, don't get me wrong, I know a whole bunch of fighting games also do that. They released DLC characters later on. But look at a game like Super Smash Bros. Even without the DLC characters, they give you a very generous, large roster of characters. And quite a few fighting games do that, but this one, I want to say, gave you less than half, which is pretty. That's pretty small. They only gave you 15 characters.
Yeah.
So those are strikes off. So I don't know. It's I'm not gonna say it's bad. I mean, I enjoyed playing it, but if this direction continues for Guilty Gear, I don't know if I'm going to continue playing it, if I'm being 100% honest.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel like the same game anymore.
I think it'd be, well, with the speed aside,
and the move lists.
Yeah, for me, if they continue this process of like, or with any fighting game really, where they just give you like a small roster to start off with and they start charging you for each additional characters they're rolling out, I'm just going to wait until they release like the deluxe version, kind of like Mortal Kombat. Now you can get the game for the same price that you would have bought it originally. But you get all the characters now. So you don't have to pay for all that DLC. And eventually, I'm calling it, the same thing that happened with Guilty Gear. Maybe like 2 years later down the road, once a good chunk of them are out, here's a deluxe version where you automatically get all these characters.
Right.
Kind of like with Pokemon. When you bought it, I think when they released the expansion for Crown Tundra and Armor Vial, it was $30 a piece.
Right.
So I ended up spending like $20?
Yeah.
To have all of that, well as you paid $90 because they released that deluxe version. So for the price of Isle of Armor, you also got Crown Tundra.
Right.
And I just think that's going to be the way to go now. It's just to hold off.
Like, it honestly depends on I guess your approach to the game. If you're one of those like, no, I'm super in the competitive scene and like I want to start competing in tournaments as quickly as possible, then yeah, of course you're gonna get the game right off the bat. But if you approach a fighting game or any game more casually, I don't see why you wouldn't wait, unless you're dying to play it, of course. Yeah, but if you're more like, oh yeah, I want to play that game, but I don't mind waiting like for a deluxe version, that honestly might be the better way to go nowadays.
Yeah. Because
a lot of this is a money grab. Let's just call it what it is. It's a money grab.
Yeah. But yeah, so those were our thoughts on Guilty Gear Strive.
Yeah. Let us know what you think, of course, as always, in the comments below.
And if you want to play us, let us know. And we will make it happen. And asses would be whooped. I'm not saying who's going to get whooped, but someone inevitably has to get whooped.
Yeah, watch Green Tea 123 is going to respond to your challenge.
I'd be like, oh, I'm sick.
Oh, well.
I can't play.
Right.
But yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in, for watching the video as long as you did. And yeah, we definitely hope you guys come back to the Oasis.
The Entertainment Oasis. Peace out.
Adios.
And fight on.
Did you say fight on?
Yeah, fighting games.
That's so cheesy.
You're cheesy. You're Chester Cheeto cheesy.
It ain't easy. It ain't cheesy.